Tak naši hosté, vítám vás zpět. Doufám, že jste si stihli uvařit dobrou kávu nebo se nějak jinak občerstvit. Já když jsem viděl anotaci této přednášky a uvědomil jsem si, o který systém jde, tak jsem si říkal, jo, to je moc fajn, protože sám mám rád systémy, které jsou otevřené, se kterými jde nějakým způsobem pracovat. Budeme mít prezentaci firmy BeeGFS, která má unikátní souborový systém, který najde široké uplatnění, a to i díky tomu, že jeho základ je open source. Ono by mohlo vypadat, že open source tak je to zase něco zadarmo. Není to úplně tak, protože aby něco správně fungovalo, tak potřebujete ty chytré hlavy. Já jsem rád, že tady kolem mě, vy je teda nevidíte, ty chytré hlavy z Agory sedí. Konkrétně tady třeba Tomáš Kalabis, Jirka Novák, tak je všechny znáte. Ale kromě toho už máme připravené i chytré hlavy přímo z BeeGFS a to je pan Marko Merkel. Marko Merkel is here, so welcome, Marko. I can see you here right now in my Zoom. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you and see you loud and clear.
Okay. So I just said something about your system, and you have now 45 minutes, so let's start.
I'm on stage. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's a great pleasure to be invited and be the first in the round. So greetings from Munich. I'm based in Munich. And yeah, I prepared a little slide deck, which I'm trying to share right now with you guys and diving through BeeGFS, through the BeeGFS world. Right, okay, so I hope you can see my welcome screen.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, okay. I'm gonna switch off my video because this maybe is improving also the quality of the audio. And okay. For Q&A, I'm switching back. All right.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, 45 minutes. That's a short thing, but I mean, I prepared here a little overview for BeeGFS. My name is Marko Merkel. I'm based in Munich. I am VP Sales worldwide for BeeGFS, so running all sales operations and consulting. I know Yuri and Agora Plus for a couple of years now, and we are very successful together in your region. And yeah, I prepared this little slide deck for you that you have a background on the BeeGFS overview. We are diving into the concept, into the architecture, some product directions, and BeeGFS is also, we are coming from HPC, but we see more traction into the media and entertainment part. So I have some use cases which I want to show up and share with you. Plus, we do have also hopefully some time for questions and answers and dive through your questions. All right. Some BeeGFS design background and give you some background on BeeGFS so far. So the birthplace of BeeGFS is the Fraunhofer organization in Kaiserslautern. So Fraunhofer is a very large applied research organization with roughly 60 institutes around the globe. These guys are financed by the governments, but also by industry customers. And one of them are located in Kaiserslautern. They're doing industrial mathematics research, and they are running HPC projects for HPC, oil and gas, real ray tracing, big data analytics, AI and machine learning. And they've been running GPFS and Lustre in their environments for very IO intensive workloads. And they came to the conclusion that these file systems are pretty good. They scale and they can do lots of things, but having mixed IO loads in a distributed file system leading into problems. And so they did some research and came to the conclusion that the user space concept would actually release the problems of these distributed file systems. And so they started to do some investigations. They started the development in 2006 and made the code public available. It really took 5 years until the first version came out. It's mainly written, BeeGFS itself is mainly written in a C++ user space application approach. We have now roughly 150,000 lines of code so far implemented into the product. And on the Linux kernel side, we have a model which is written in C. The first version came out in 2009. It was public available for universities mainly. So we're coming from the HPC arena. And the people are really love the metadata performance. And so Fraunhofer got more support requests. And in 2014, they couldn't handle the incoming support requests. So it needed a company, ThinkPark. And ThinkPark, that's the spin out. We are spin off of the Fraunhofer organization. So we are running the development, we are doing the support behind BeeGFS, and we are the company behind BeeGFS. The code itself or the key values of BeeGFS is really a best class of performance, and it's a ease of configuration. It's if you're installing BeeGFS, since it's running in the user space, it's super simple to line it up into an infrastructure, and you get out of the box immediately decent performance without tuning. Since it's running in the user space, it's fully hardware agnostic, and we are releasing the unneeded complexity in a distributed file system infrastructure, which is also a unique selling point for BeeGFS. The business, what we are doing, it's available code, so it's not real open source because we want to be in control of the quality of the code. So it's available source, it's free of use for many cases, and I'm diving into this part as well. And the customer itself, so the end customer is licensing a level C support subscription to the product. The focus of development is, of course, above all guided by partners and users and the feedback. So we are really listening to our customers and developing the file system to the requirements and the need. The main focus currently is core performance and scalability. It's the enterprise functionality, so data management and high availability, and DevOps, so ease of deployment and integration in different environments, from small to very large environments. Right. So since BeeGFS is a distributed file system, we have a pretty broad landscape since we are hardware agnostic. So we are running with any Intel platforms, AMD platforms, ARMs, Open Power, and we do have a lots of technology partners which actually integrating BeeGFS as a solution. We have partners like NetApp E-Series is a BeeGFS appliance. Dell is also a partner from us, where we actually certified BeeGFS on Dell gear. I'm showing up this in the next upcoming slides, how we integrated BeeGFS on Dell gear. Inspur, Lenovo, Oracle, but also NVIDIA plays a significant role in our partner landscape. We see also BeeGFS is moving more and more into the cloud, so Azure and Oracle and AWS, but partners which actually bringing BeeGFS as a solution together, like Agora Plus. And we went through here kind of onboarding process where we designed here dedicated solution sets for Agora and their partners, and we do have also local deployments with BeeGFS. So we are very proud about this partnership to have Agora on board. Right, how BeeGFS works. Let's dive a little bit into the work and give you some quick facts on BeeGFS itself. So as I mentioned, it's operating in the user space. So we really took here a different approach, because we found out that in a traditional distributed file system, you're running deep into the kernel. And that's leading into complexity, but it's also leading into problems to manage the metadata and the efficiency of the hardware components. So we actually want to bring the hardware components to the limiting factor. And the user space approach actually introducing that BeeGFS brings all components into this direction. So it's fully hardware independent, and we really can say it's a software-defined parallel storage solution. As mentioned, it's available source, so it's public available, and it runs on various platforms: x86, ARM, OpenPower, AMD. We are supporting various distributions like Red Hat, Slash, Ubuntu, and by the way, 98% of our installations are based on CentOS or Red Hat. So that's the main distributions what we see in the HPC market so far. BeeGFS itself runs with very lightweighted service daemons in the user space above the arbitrated Linux file system. So we do need a underlying file system like ext4, XFS, or ZFS, or Hadoop. And that's actually for the customer, for the end user, a huge advantage, because you don't need to compile a kernel. Linux patches are trivial. They can install and deploy to the cluster setup productively, and that's actually a huge advantage now compared to complex traditional file system solutions. It is enabled for NFS and CIFS, so we can run here re-exports into this kind of world. And it's really presenting a scalable, multi-threaded architecture which supports RDMA, RoCE, TCP/IP, and InfiniBand, operating in the user space. And that brings us into the position that the underlying file system, the hardware components, and the network are the limiting factor of the infrastructure, and brings you into the position to relieve the full bandwidth and delivering via speed to the application. Let's dive a little bit into the architectural concept for your understanding. So on a high overview, it looks like all traditional file systems, but here are core differentiators which I want to highlight. And that's also the ideas with this B effect, because we have on the client side a BeeGFS version, on the metadata part and the storage part. We have management services and monitoring services. So we came to the idea that we say, hey, that's like a behave. So we have bees here on the client and on the meta part, and that's actually how it leaded into the name of BeeGFS. But yeah, let's dive into the concept. So B number one is the client service. So we have a native, and there we needed a native Linux model to mount the file system. That was necessary to implement. But yeah, that's the only native part on BeeGFS. We do have B number two is the management service, and the management service is super lightweighted. It doesn't require any server components. It can sit on any components because it doesn't store any data. It's registering all hardware components, and it's managing the incoming jobs on a very wise way. And this management service needs to be set high available. That can be implemented in a DRDB shared storage infrastructure or in a virtual environment. So it doesn't store any data. It's not engaged into the data streams. It's just managing those hardware components. And that's also how you're actually scaling your infrastructure. So you can add here, you can grow the system linear on the metadata part or on the storage part. So you can expand the system in both dimensions, on metadata level and in the storage part. The key magic behind BeeGFS is B number three, metadata services. So the metadata service is actually maintaining the striping information, and it's a service. So it's super flexible and agile and elastic. So you can run the metadata services on dedicated machines, SSD servers or NVMe servers, or you sit these services on an SSD or NVMe on the storage node. That's super elastic of the file system. And it's maintaining the striping information for the file system. So it's directing the client requests directly to the storage nodes, to the targets, and these targets are distributed. And the clients do have parallel access on IO node level, which brings us into the position, if you have enough spindles deployed into a storage node, you will saturate the hardware controller. If the hardware controller is the limiting factor, you take out the limiting factor, and you're delivering then bias speed to the clients. So that brings us to deliver here and manage way more efficient the small IOs and large IOs at the same time. And the reason for that is that we are not involved into the data access between a file and open close process. So that's actually managed through the underlying file system. And that brings us into the position to handle here, or actually bring the hardware to the limits. So the underlying file system, the network is actually the limiting factor. We can handle here way more efficient small IOs and large IOs compared to other traditional file systems. The storage service, yeah, it's distributing and storing the file content. We do have a monitoring service. This monitoring service can also sit on any machines. It's providing an influx database we are also delivering here at Grafana dashboards, so it's pretty open to existing frameworks. And that's actually the core differentiator now to the traditional file systems, which are really deep into the kernel and brings here more elastics to the infrastructure. You don't need to compile the kernels. It's easy to implement, and you're getting full bandwidth of your hardware components out of the box. And that's really a unique selling point on BeeGFS. Right, let's dive a little bit into the enterprise features. And I want to make you aware about the enterprise features and EULA. Customers, it's public available. You don't need to register. You just see the EULA link, and end customers are actually allowed to use the free version. So the free version is mainly for Scratch jobs. So customers can download themselves and run it in a Scratch environment. This contains free updates. There's a community where the people are helping it out itself. Partners are not allowed to sell, or partners and vendors are not allowed to sell this as a Scratch version to customers. So that requires an enterprise edition, and the enterprise edition has several functionalities. We call these functionalities resiliency. There are several resiliency options available: quota enforcements, ACLs, and storage pool management. These functionalities are implemented in the code. They need to be enabled, and they do require an enterprise support subscription to BeeGFS, and that gives us or gives you as a customer also the capability that you get support from our side next business day. Right. Let's dive through these functionalities to give you here a clearer picture of what we are understanding of resiliency and high availability options. And since we have this user space concept, we have also several options which actually provide resiliency and high availability to the data of a customer environment. Of course, we have classical RAID configurations. So for the storage part, you would go for RAID 5 or RAID 6 double parity. For the metadata management, it's RAID 10 or RAID 1. We have also a functionality which allows actually to set up a synchronous mirror. So you can mirror files between, so you can set up a synchronous mirror between two storage nodes. So you can mirror files, directories, and targets on those machines. It has pros and cons because you're setting up a synchronous mirror between two storage nodes. So reading from these two storage nodes is maybe an advantage because you're streaming through two storage nodes to the client, so you will have more performance. In terms of reads and writes, you're reducing the performance of this mirroring functionalities by 50%. It's also introducing more storage consumption. So that's the pros and cons in a short quick run. But this functionality is being mainly used for home directories and such kind of data. We have another option which is available for on the market. It's software rate, so software rate configuration. So we do see many customers are using CFS in this environment. CFS is a pretty beauty product because it provides snapshots, deduplication, encryption, but also software rate management. Yeah, we see it in very often that customers are using CFS. If customers do require more speed and want to relieve the full bandwidth, we are recommending MD rate with XFS for a software rate approach. And these are pretty powerful solutions in which are key ready in several partner environments, and pretty powerful. The shared storage configuration is running through Pacemaker, DRDB, and CoreSync. So we have many customers are using this environment for automatic failover, but also to presenting the infrastructure or the design as a shared storage infrastructure to the clients. We have also, we don't have erasure coding into our file system implemented so far, because there are super cool solutions out there on the market, third-party solutions which are actually certified on BeeGFS, like Accelero, very powerful. Accelero provides here an NVMe over the fabric with erasure coding functionality, very powerful for NVMe devices. But we have also found out that other companies like Pavilion Data, which is a software-based erasure coding solution, or RAID IX, which is a card which provides erasure coding on the PCI PCI implementation, Extend and Myriad. So we have wonderful erasure coding functionalities out there which can be combined with BeeGFS and presenting here resiliency and high availability options. I'm diving to the next enterprise functionality, which calls storage pool management. So customers can actually manage the infrastructure and orchestrate the infrastructure on projects. So actually, you can set up a quota and run your production data on flash drives or flash pools. So high performance pools or pods. If these projects then are accomplished, BeeGFS provides a command which allows you to migrate the data fully transparent to the next level of tier, which could be a SAS or SATA pool. And yeah, it's supporting here any different types of storage across all tiers as a global mount point to the client. This process is a manual command, but this process can be also automated by an Epilogue Prolog implementation through the workload management system like Slurm, Mohop, Univer Grid Engine, or similar functionalities, or Bright Computing, for instance. And that allows you actually to manage the infrastructure based on projects and move these projects then away from the expensive pools to slower tiers. So you remember that I just mentioned that we have that I brought up that we are running in the user space, and that user space approach actually introducing an enormous flexibility. So just imagine you're running AI applications with I don't know, 13 million IOs, 4K blocks, random access on your persistent file system. That would lead into problems. So, and you don't want to run these IO patterns on your infrastructure. What you can do with BeeGFS, we call this functionality BeeGFS on demand, that allows you to create a file system instance on the flight and run BeeGFS on the client nodes and use from the client nodes, the available SSDs or NVMe components for burst buffering. So that allows you to decouple these nasty IO scratch jobs from your persistent file system and use this as a burst buffer on the client node. So you're using here, you're increasing here the efficiency of your infrastructure. You don't need to implement expensive solutions. to hook up into the parallel file system approach. So you're using here what you have in place. So we call this functionality BeeGFS on demand, and it's really decoupling the nasty IO pattern in this infrastructure. I show you the command. So the command actually is really the super simplest way how you're enabling a burst buffering file system level, where you actually say beyond start minus which node files should be implemented, which storage directories, and how to mount them. After the job is done, you're stopping the job, and then you can write in parallel onto your persistent file system. That can be a BeeGFS pool, it can be any kind of pool, and that's really helpful for speeding up nasty IO pattern. It could be also GPUs, for instance. So you have a broad extension to manage your infrastructure on different performance levels you do require. We do have customers which are using mainly this functionality on the client nodes on GPUs, for instance, and these guys are producing here terabytes per second. So very powerful and very efficient to increase the efficiency on and use the components what you have already in place by a simple command. So very unique to the market, and no other companies are actually providing this functionality. And the reason behind that is the user space architecture, which allows us actually this flexibility in an ecosystem. I mentioned the monitoring services. I just want to bring you here also and introduce this short screenshot. It's providing live statistics per client, per user statistics. You can do any storage analytics provided here in Beauty Grafana dashboards. You can set up email notifications for users if they are over the thresholds. So everything can be done in terms of monitoring part. Right. So that was the enterprise features. And I just want to show you also now the BeeGFS and beyond functionality and show you the flexibility of the file system, where we are where we actually providing solutions to customer sites. Our main and bread and butter infrastructures is actually the converged setup. As I mentioned, you can combine the storage services, the meta services on a storage node. So we are just imagine now customer coming from NFS, and NFS is not providing, it's not distributing. You need to distribute more targets. Then it's actually the way where we start here in a small setup. So we do require here 2 storage nodes, 3-4 storage nodes, and run BeeGFS as a converged setup in this environment. And you're getting here full bandwidth of the RDMA infrastructure, and that's an ease of use. This system can be added. So if you need to have more capacity on your infrastructure, you just add another component to the management service. So non-disruptive, and you're scaling up the infrastructure. So we have mainly our main customers actually are coming from NFS problems in that kind of scale, but BeeGFS can do more. And if you really do need to decouple the metadata services and the storage services, it is possible. I mean, we are running services, very lightweighted services. These services can be stopped and started anytime. So you can add them later on, migrate them the BeeGFS infrastructure to dedicated metadata servers and managing across all tiers different storage pools. And if you really need more horsepower, so the beyond functionality, you even can run BeeGFS on demand on the NVMEs or SSDs on the client node. So you see the flexibility of this file system. You can scale in all dimensions on the metadata level and the storage part. And if you do need burst buffering, you can even run BeeGFS on the client nodes for burst and use these client nodes as burst buffers. So very elastic and a very enormous solution, which actually scales from small to exabytes if necessary. Are we there yet? Not yet, but yeah, it's getting fast, also bigger and bigger. We have now roughly 350 customers around the globe. Home base for BeeGFS is still EMEA, so we have the most installations here in Europe. And yeah, people can go anytime to our web pages, so it's public available. We have an interactive documentation which guides you through the installation process. And Agora Plus, these guys are trained on BeeGFS. They do understand how to establish and enable BeeGFS in your environment. But for your information, if you're interested to dive a little bit more deeper, you can go there and install it yourself and try it out anytime. You're allowed to use this, and we are happy if you're downloading it, and let us know what you think about it. So it's a straightforward process. All right. Let's dive a little bit into the BeeGFS appliance approach. We certified BeeGFS together with Dell on dedicated hardware gear, and we came to the idea that we want to enable a BeeGFS appliance, which is actually available for HPC, AI, and IO intensive workloads. And that's actually a turnkey solution which is available. So we installed BeeGFS on, and we have here two architectural concepts where everything is burned in there. It's fully documented. You see also what are the capabilities of the network infrastructure, how to set it up, which numerals are actually needed for these hardware components. And it's based on a very fast NVMe storage solution set. And you see exactly what you get in terms of capacity and what you get out of the box from performance. So it's burned in, it's tested, and it's very interesting because if you're designing infrastructures, it's also very helpful that you understand how to set up the infrastructure, that you get all capabilities out of this hardware gear. A second part is that we have also a high capacity storage model that's also burned in, and we actually BeeGFS runs on these machines, and these machines do require a level 3 support subscription to put BeeGFS, and that's mainly sold through partners as a turnkey solution, fully burned in, fully documented, with all performance capabilities of that gear. So very powerful and turnkey ready as an appliance for HPC, AI, and IO intensive infrastructures. All right. Yuri, am I on time?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. Okay.
You still have 10 minutes.
Okay, super. I'm almost done. So I just want to share also these white papers. So you see here links which actually are guiding you to these white papers. I want to share this. The slide deck will be also shared through Yuri, and you have access then to these white papers and find a little bit more deeper out what we have done there, what kind of performance you're gonna get out of this hardware gear. So it's very powerful and helpful for designing architectural concepts.
Okay, we'll look if we have any questions.
Yeah.
I don't see any questions. I don't think we have any.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Good. Okay, some
maybe
yeah.
Tell me, how many customers in Europe do you have?
In Europe, we have, I would say we have over 115 installations all over Europe.
So you are not mainstream, you are very specialized, I would say.
We are not mainstream anymore. We started in 2015. We've been 3 people, now we are 20 people. We onboarded the Lustre inventor, Peter Ram. So he is working for us as well. So he introduced Lustre to the world, and yeah, he actually helped us now to establish BeeGFS into the HPC markets, but also in different market verticals. We are coming from the HPC arena, but we see now also AI is introducing an HPC infrastructure, but customers like banks, insurances, telecommunication are requiring an AI infrastructure, and BeeGFS fitting there perfectly in there because we are hardware independent. And you see here spectacular deployments in very small scales, but providing a lots of performance. And that's where customers are investing money in such environments. And we are helping to invest in such environments and have an ease of use approach. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist for file systems to establish such an infrastructure.
We have one question here.
Mm-hmm.
How works the typical usage of BOND? Is it possible to replicate data from cloud to local client and work with them and replicate back or read from cloud? It's
right.
From our very good customer and friend, Vašek Nesvedba.
This does require third-party tools for BeeGFS on demand. Of course, you can run BeeGFS on demand, and BeeGFS runs into the cloud in Azure. So we have here, we just tested BeeGFS on Azure on 150 terabyte NVMe installation, and that was providing one terabyte per second. So that was pretty outstanding. If you Google Azure and beyond, you will find this report, and BeeGFS was enabled into the cloud. If you want to push, I mean, you do need tools to migrate then the data into your persistent file system.
Okay, fine. So, are there any other questions? Oh, thanks from Vašek. Okay, we are very happy to receive this question. And
right.
Okay.
Let me just say some few words on the NVIDIA A100 and this one here. That's also a very small environment for AI. We really help.
Another 7 or 6 minutes.
Okay, cool. Okay, then I just take these minutes, and here, I mean, this is out of the box on an A100 infrastructure, and BeeGFS gets out here 50 gigabytes a second IO bandwidth in such an environment. So very powerful. And here, that's an environment where we helped out a customer. That's a university where actually these guys running AI algorithm on this gear. And we have here 8 clients with 2 CPUs on Mellanox with 4 servers. And these four servers actually providing 600,000 file creates per second. For 1 million, for 1 million. Sorry, is that a question? Okay.
Oh, sorry. We have discussed here about another another host who will be here.
Okay.
He's not still here, and I forgot to switch off my microphone.
No problem. I saw there's a question coming in. So okay, sorry. So just coming back, this infrastructure provides 600,000 file creates per second, and it provides 1 million random 4K IOPS to the system. So it's delivering 60 gigabyte reads and 20 gigabytes writes. This infrastructure was not very expensive, so we really provided here superpower to this AI algorithm. But I mean, since this is also a media entertainment event, Jiri, I just found a use case which is maybe quite interesting. And I want to show you that BeeGFS is also running in media and entertainment, and we have some very cool settings. Maybe you guys know Gemini Man. So BeeGFS being used for this fantastic film. This film was recorded first time in history with 120 frames per second in a 4K resolution. I provided this link here because that's very attractive to see, because they went to all those recording sets with this gear to this recording sets and been running BeeGFS on this gear. So it was for us a huge surprise. We didn't know that that we had a partner which was capable to install BeeGFS in this year, and that was a traveling lab. So it's been in a cluster accelerated by BeeGFS, and yeah, BeeGFS actually is in the background actually the file system for Gemini Man, and it really took a while until we got out. Oh Jesus, BeeGFS is actually provided here the data for the Gemini Man, and the film, as you know, is a super cool film. Not all any there was also limited. The cinemas were just able to show this high resolution in their cinemas. So it was really quite interesting to see, and have a dive to this link. Check it out. It's very interesting what they have done with BeeGFS, and it shows also the flexibility for BeeGFS. Right, and last but not least, the company behind that was Skydance, Gemini Man, but we see also BeeGFS in rendering infrastructures and post-productions. So rock solid pictures, for instance, and a post-production house here in Berlin are using BeeGFS in media and entertainment. So we do require, of course, partners which actually do understand the workflows of media and entertainment, but BeeGFS is a good fit in this kind of direction. And yeah, that's actually leading to the Q&A. If there are more questions are coming in, I'm happy to at least try to assist you with your questions. Okay.
No other questions, and we are finally done with the time. So,
all right.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. And now we are ready for another presentation.
Yes.
Tak, já děkuji Markovi za zajímavou prezentaci. Víte, co zaznělo, že jich je pár těch instalací, nebo v porovnání s něčím mainstreamových není úplně hodně těch instalací, ale Agora je jednou z hrdých firm, která má s tímto zkušenosti a která tyto instalace prováděla.